Year 1900. Off the west coast of Scotland, in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, a small, rocky group of islands. The wind is harsh. The sea is dark. Nothing is heard except the sound of waves. These islands are called the Flannan Isles. And on these islands, there is a structure no one lives in, but everyone trusts. A lighthouse. For passing ships, this lighthouse means life. If the light is on, the ship is safe. If the light is out, no one is safe. In 1899, this lighthouse enters service, and 3 men are assigned to it. 3 experienced seamen, 3 adult men, all of them used to storms. Their names: James Duckett, Thomas Marshall, Donald MacArthur. These men would stay on this island for months, far from civilization, alone. But this was nothing new for them. Lighthouse keepers are used to loneliness, used to storms, used to silence. And the Flannan Isles are silence itself. Mid-December. The air is heavy. The sea is restless. But according to the records, everything is normal. Logs are kept. The light is on. Routine continues. Until December 15th, 1900. That day, ships passing nearby notice something strange. The sea is very rough, but the lighthouse is not lit. This is not normal, because the Flannan Isles lighthouse must remain lit even in the worst weather. But no one can intervene immediately. The weather's too bad. The waves are too high. The relief ship can only set sail days later. December 26, 1900. The ship finally approaches the island, and before even landing, the first strange detail is noticed. The lighthouse, dark. No signal on the flagpole, no smoke, no movement, as if the island has been abandoned. The rescue team lands. They approach the door. The door is locked. This is very strange, because in an emergency, doors are not locked. The door is opened. They go inside. At first glance, when everything is in place, the table is there, the chairs are there, the dishes are there, but no one is there. No sign of the 3 men. The beds are made. Most clothes are hanging. The boots are still there. And the most disturbing detail: 1 man's raincoat is missing, but the other 2 are still inside. What does this mean? It means this: at least one of them went outside in a hurry. But the others? Why did they follow him? And there is worse. The logs are examined, the final entries. Normal. But the notes from the previous day contain very strange lines. The wind is strong. This is normal. But then, Donald is crying. This is not normal. Donald MacArthur was an experienced, tough seaman. Him crying was unusual. And one more line: we prayed to God. Now stop. What could these men have seen? A storm? But that day, there is no major storm recorded in the region. A fight? But there are no signs of struggle inside. An attack? But the island is deserted. And most importantly, if 1 man was in danger, why did the other 2 leave the lighthouse with him? Especially on a day when the sea was this violent. Up to this point, you might still say, maybe, but soon, things will grow even darker. Because outside, near the rocks, something will be noticed. And this detail will completely change the direction of the case. But we're not there yet. For now, the only thing we know is this: 3 men, while on duty, left behind no explanation at all, and vanished into the ocean. And the lighthouse, after that day, never felt the same again. They go outside and they move toward the steep rocks surrounding the lighthouse. And here, the first physical evidence appears. The detail that turns this from an ordinary disappearance into something else. There are metal railings along the edge of the cliffs. These railings had withstood storms for years. But now, they are bent, and not in a way human strength could explain. Some are torn from their mounts, some are twisted, some are completely ripped out. This is important, because these railings were not built for ordinary waves, but for Atlantic storms. Now stop. If these railings ended up like this, what could have happened there? A wave. But how big would it have to be? And even stranger, this damage is on 2 different sides of the lighthouse. So not a single wave, multiple impacts, at the same time, or one after another. But the logs mention no such disaster. Weather reports mention no such storm. And most importantly, these men knew storms. They would not all go outside at the same time for a wave. especially when one of them didn't even put on his raincoat. Here, a critical possibility emerges. Maybe only one man went outside. The other two followed to stop him. But why? Did he see something? Hear something? Among lighthouse keepers, there is a rule. During a storm, never approach the cliffs. But here, that is exactly what happened. And this is a conscious risk. Now we reach an even more disturbing detail. Inside the lighthouse, the clock had not stopped. It was working. So there was no power failure, no technical malfunction. The lighthouse going dark was not a technical issue. This was done by human hands. Someone turned the light off. But why? For a lighthouse keeper, turning off the light is the last thing to do. It means abandoning the duty. And no one does that without reason. Now picture the scene. The light is off. 3 men are missing. Railings are bent. Fear appears in the logs. But outside the island, no disaster is recorded. This doesn't look like a natural event, but it's not an attack either. And here the psychological side of the incident comes into play. The Flannan Isles are not only physically difficult, but mentally as well. Months of isolation, constant wind, the endless sound of waves day and night, and especially at night, human perception changes. Among sailors, there is a belief. Some islands call to you, but when you get close, you never return. Now here is a very important question. Did these men become afraid at the same time? Or did one man's fear spread to the others? Because panic is contagious, and 3 people can make the same wrong decision at the same moment. But still, something remains unexplained. If this was a wave, why were there no bodies? If they fell into the sea, why was no trace found? No body washed ashore, no personal belongings, no sign. As if the sea swallowed them without leaving a single trace. And at this point, investigators say, this disappearance is not normal, but soon even more disturbing possibilities will enter the picture. Because now not only physical, but psychological and behavioral theories come into play. And some suggest that these 3 men did not fall into the sea, but consciously went down. But why? And the most terrifying question, if it wasn't the sea, what took them from there? At this point, we can say one thing clearly. These 3 men did not disappear at the same time for the same reason, because the traces left behind do not point to a single scenario. Instead, they form a chain. And the first link of that chain is the human mind. Living on the Flannan Isles was not just a physical duty, it was a psychological test. For months, the same faces, the same sounds, the same view, and almost no contact with the outside world. In such environments, the human brain starts filling in the gaps. It amplifies sounds, gives meaning to shadows, turns harmless things into perceived threats. And here there is a critical detail. Donald MacArthur. The logs say he was crying. This may be the key to everything. MacArthur was normally strong, hard-tempered, but during those days he appeared emotionally broken. This leads to 2 possibilities. Either he saw something, or he didn't see anything. But his mind made it feel real. In psychology, this is called shared panic. One person becomes afraid, others take that fear seriously, and eventually everyone believes the same danger exists. Now imagine midnight. The wind intensifies, waves crash against the rocks. A sound, normally nothing important. But at that moment, different. MacArthur panics. Maybe he shouts. Maybe he runs outside. The other 2 follow to stop him. But once outside, there is no return. Because the storm peaks at that exact moment, and the cliffs show no mercy. But this scenario alone is still not enough. Because the bent railings suggest not a single wave, but an extraordinary force. And here, one of nature's least known yet most dangerous phenomena enters the story. Rogue wave. These waves form suddenly. They don't appear in weather reports. They can't be predicted. And with a single impact, they can destroy everything. For years, they were considered legends. But now we know they are real. These waves can be 2 or even 3 times higher than normal waves. And when they hit the coast, they rip out railings, climb over rocks, and drag people into the sea. The Flannan Isles are one of the dangerous regions where these waves can form. Now reconstruct the scene. One man panicked, went outside, The others followed. An unexpected wave struck, and all three were pushed at the same moment, past the point of no return. This is the most logical scenario so far. But something is still missing. Why was the lighthouse light turned off beforehand? If everything happened suddenly, why was the light already out? This suggests preparation, meaning perhaps something had already gone wrong before it all began. And here, the most disturbing possibility emerges. An unknown perceived threat. Maybe there was no real danger, but it was believed to exist. And that belief bound three men to the same fate. Because sometimes humans don't really run. They think they are running, but what they're fleeing exists only inside their minds. And now, we reach the final section. Here, no more theories. Only the remaining truth will speak. And this truth is not comforting. There is no new information left, no new witnesses, no new records, no new traces. That is exactly why the Flannan Isles case was never closed. Because this story contains gaps. And the human mind hates gaps. It fills them with something. Some say nature, some say reason, some say something else. But now let's place everything we truly know side by side. There were three men. They were experienced, used to storms. They knew their duty. But at some point, they faced something unfamiliar. Maybe an extraordinary wave. Maybe a misinterpreted sound. Maybe just the pressure built over time. But the result was the same. The light was turned off. This is critical, because this was a conscious act, meaning the event did not begin with a sudden disaster. It began with a decision, and that decision led them outside, to the cliffs, to the most dangerous place near the sea. And there, nature does not give second chances. One wave is enough, and then silence, no bodies, no traces, no answers. Only an empty island and an extinguished light. Years later, the case was examined again and again. Reports were written, theories were formed, new explanations were tried, but none could explain every detail perfectly because there was no single cause. This was a chain: mental pressure, misinterpretation, natural force, all activated at the same time. People often blame nature, but on the Flannan Isles, nature alone is not enough. This case is an example of how humans make decisions in the face of uncertainty. And perhaps that is the most frightening part, because there is no monster here, no ghost, no unseen entity, only a decision made at the wrong time, in the wrong place. And that decision ended three lives with no return. The Flannan Isles Lighthouse still stands today, but now it's automated, no one inside, because some places are not meant for humans, and some duties demand a price. Now think one last time, if it were you. As the storm approached, as you felt something was wrong, would you stay, or would you turn off the light and go outside? The Flannan Isles do not answer this question. They only remind us, sometimes the danger is not in the wave, but in the decision, and some decisions cannot be undone. The light goes out, the island falls silent, and the story stays there.